Welcome to the Two Money Guys podcast. I am Robert Rio, the middle-aged money man, along with your money geek, Michael Dinich. We have an incredible show for you this week. So incredible, in fact, that we have extended the interview to the entire show. We sat down with Tori Dunlap, the creator of victorymedia.com, a finance and career website for millennial women, to discuss how she views the current problems with women and finances, the opportunity gap, the wage gap and investing gap, and what she's doing to help women help themselves in business. But first, let's roll that intro. All right, we would like to welcome our very special guest, Tori Dunlap, to the show. How are you today, Tori?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you guys?
Great, thank you.
Doing well. Tori is the creator of victorymedia.com, a personal finance and career website for the millennial woman. Start off by finding a little bit about Tori, and also if we can get a little background as far as how the actual website was started and the idea behind Victory Media, how that took shape.
I have a really unique story of how this all started. So I have a really great financial education from my parents. I actually started my first business when I was 9 years old. I owned 15 vending machines, and all the profits went to my college education. So I was pitching myself, learning about customer service, had my first checking and savings account when I was 9, 10, 11 years old. So was learning about money management, learning about how to be an entrepreneur. It was in no way novel, but it was a great learning experience and a great way for my family and I to bond. Regardless of that, my parents have always been really great with money, really great savers, really responsible with retirement savings and paying off their mortgage early and all of these sorts of things. So when I graduated college, I knew the business thing was not normal. Like I knew that was pretty rare, but I thought everybody kind of knew, okay, don't overspend on credit cards. Don't spend more than you have, live below your means, don't go out to eat every night. I thought that was just a given. And I realized very quickly that most people don't actually know a lot of that. And especially women are at a severe disadvantage when it comes to financial knowledge and education. Victory Media kind of started as a blog and a platform for me to just talk about what I was passionate about and what I loved and my kind of journey through my first couple of years in the corporate world. And it quickly became, okay, I'd talk about a travel post, but it would be how much I saved on that travel post or how I was able to negotiate certain things while I was on my trip. Career things would be about job interviews or salary negotiations or all these things. So it became apparent very quickly to me that my big passion was women and giving women actionable resources to level up their careers and to just get better with money. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now.
You took that 15 machine business. You said you had 15 vending machines when you were 9 years old. So you took that 15 machine business and you turned that into a business learning experience. You're basically an entrepreneur at 9 years old. I mean, how do you think that helped shape your business expertise, shall I say? What did you have to do? What was involved in that business that made you a better business person today?
I mean, it was everything. I started with one machine when I was 9. My dad literally brought it home. He's been a salesperson for 25, maybe 30 years. One of his customers owned it and he just looked at me and he goes, "Do you want to start a business?" 9-year-old me is like, sure. So started with one machine and I eventually, he kind of loaned me the machine and then I paid him back for it until probably the third or fourth machine where I could buy them outright. Every part of, honestly, why I'm an entrepreneur now and why I love talking about money and educating about money, it started there. I learned customer service, good customer service. I learned how to pitch myself, which was so important. I gained so much confidence in my abilities and my skills because I was going in, when I was 11 or 12 and I had my little contract on the table of what I was going to, do. Okay, I'm going to clean and service the machines once a month. Profits will go to my college education if you guys give me free rent space in your break room to put this machine. Learned money management, learned the value of a dollar. One of the first learning opportunities I had, I was so excited to get started when I was 9 that I went to a bulk food store, bought all my product. And my dad, before I did this, was like, "Don't you want to make sure, let's research these places?" And I was so excited to get started. I was like, "No, we don't need to." And then I remember going to Costco a couple of days after we had bought all the product and the same amount would have cost me about half. It's learning experiences like that of really shopping things before you purchase them, making sure that your money being spent is less than your money that's coming in. It's all these things that we kind of just take for granted. But when you're 9 and 10 and growing up, it was such a valuable learning experience. I was writing my first checks when I was 10. I was in Costco writing out a check, for my product. And you learn what people like and what they don't like. You have people who are like, oh, I want this candy, or I want this candy. And when I first started, it was very much like, okay, I'll give you, whatever I think is going to sell. And then that didn't work quickly because you'd had one person who loved, I don't know, M&Ms and one person who didn't, or maybe the entire office, the rest of the office didn't. So that wasn't a smart investment to take one of your heads on your machine and fill it with a product that only one person was interested in. There's so many things I learned at a young age that I implement all the time. I work in marketing from my 9 to 5, run, kind of this business on the side. And there's so much of that I learned of, pitching myself, good customer service, listening to your customers, managing your money. There's so much that I learned through that experience.
Did you continue it through college?
I actually sold it. Get this. I sold this business when I was 20, maybe 21, to a 10-year-old who also happens to be named Tori.
Oh, really? Wow.
And she is now doing the exact same thing with her family. And it was a great, not only learning experience, but my dad and I would go out for 3 or 4 hours every Saturday morning. And it was a great time for us to connect and hang out. And my mom would always help us when we came home. We'd sit on the floor and hand roll our quarters. It was a, quarter vending machine. So we'd roll quarters together, and I got to learn from my dad, and I got to spend time with my dad and my mom even more. Now little Tori, who I believe is 13 or 14 now, going out there and doing her own thing too. And it was so cool to be able to pass that on. And because it was so, such an emotional thing for me, that business was, it wasn't just a business. It was pretty personal for me. I wanted to be able to pass it on to somebody like that. I didn't want to just sell all the machines. I think I sold a couple of the machines to the places they were at, and then 7 ended up going to her.
I was looking at your website. One of the things that caught my interest on there was in your About section, your quote, "Fighting for women's financial rights is what I was put on this earth to do." And you say you wake up every morning with a fire in your belly, ready to rally wealth inequality. And you're saying that women face extra hurdles, the opportunity gap, wage gap, investing gap, and wealth gap. And you feel that by giving women resources to fuel their careers and help them manage their money, you can start changing the world. Yeah, I know what you mean by that, but tell me how you go about doing that. How do you give them the resources, especially the females in the millennial generation? Because I think that's very important. It's just kind of almost unheard of nowadays to have that experience you had at 9 years old. I know my daughter would have really benefited from that. Now it's buried in the phones and the computers and everything else. That one-on-one interaction to go out and do cold calling like that almost doesn't exist anymore.
It's a really interesting time for women right now. Regardless of your political stance, it's a really, really interesting shift that we're seeing around women rising up and fighting for each other, fighting for their daughters, their sisters, their mothers, their wives. It's a really incredible movement that we're seeing. And I have a theory, and this is backed in, lots of data, but I don't think women achieve equality until they achieve financial equality, because money affects every part of our lives. It affects our careers. It affects the way we parent. It affects our romantic and, friend relationships. It affects every single piece of our lives. The more we tell women, you're not good with money, or money's not your place, or money is evil, or you're not worth, as much as a man is, especially women of color. I'm a white woman, so I even have more privilege than a lot of women who are minority women. But the more we perpetuate these ideas that money is not for women, it's not women's place, and it's not something women shouldn't have a lot of knowledge about, the more we push women down, the more we keep women down, because money is power. Power can be used for good. It can also be used for, not good. And the power of money, it changes your life. It changes your entire outlook. The number one cause of stress in America is money. And so for women who do not know how to manage their money, do not know how to advocate for themselves, we hear the term empowering women a lot. I understand the motivation behind it, and I totally am for it. I have issue with the word empower, because we don't need power as women. I don't need someone to give me power, but I need to know how to use it. So you'll never hear the word empower on my site. My big thing is, I know you have power. I see you. I see your power. I'm giving you tools to harness that power. So whether that's negotiating your salary and asking for what you know is your market salary rate, maybe it's $20,000 more than they say they're willing to pay you, but I have continually negotiated $10,000, $20,000 more in my job offers. It's negotiating your salary. It's saving your money. It's investing. That's the other thing. The investment gap is so, so huge because we have women who already make less than men, typically either don't invest money at all or they wait longer to invest. So they're less money, earns less money. And then women typically on average live 7 years longer than men do. So we're expected to take our less money. We earn less money on that money, and then we're expected to live longer with that money. So this is a long, long rant here, but my big thing is how do I give women resources to be able to grab the bull by the horns, invest, save, negotiate, raise other women up, give them resources so they can really go out there and succeed and get money.
And I love the fact that you just don't include the wage gap. You include the opportunity gap, the investing gap. You don't just focus on the wage gap, even though that is a huge part of it. I mean, that's the huge elephant in the room. I mean, it stares you right in the face. But the opportunity gap is also huge. The opportunity gap in the workplace, I've seen it personally in jobs that I've held, and it's a shame. I mean, it's outrageous because there are women in the workplace that could do 3, 4 times, 10 times, 100 times the job that some of the men in my office buildings could have done.
Yeah.
And I'm just being honest, but they never get the opportunity. They're always passed over. It's a shame, but that does exist. And that is one of the causes of the wage gap, because if there's never the opportunity and they're always passed over, there's never that opportunity to make more money.
Yeah. And it starts from a very young age too. I was thinking about this the other day. When, we're raising children, when boys and girls grow up, assuming that they, self-identify as the gender they were born into, boys are given Legos, they're given, things to build, they're given problem-solving toys, right? Girls are given easy bake ovens, they're given dolls, they're given things to care for. And that is so interesting to me, how early that starts. So as far as opportunities, right, we're shocked sometimes when we hear like the small amount of women in STEM fields or, women in finance or all of these things. And then you think, okay, what sorts of attitudes or, preconceived notions have we told our children since the beginning of their lives? What has society told them they can be? So when we give boys Legos, and we give women dolls to take care of, it starts that early.
Do you think that's the case as much now as it was back years ago?
Oh, no. I mean, we've made strides, and it's so much. There's the fact that I can even say this publicly, right?
Yes.
It's crazy. I mean, I think it's something like 1972 was the first year that women could own their own credit cards and did not have to have a male cosigner on that credit card. Like 1972. That feels like that was like yesterday. There's so much progress we've made. But for me in the past 2 years, honestly, it's shown me how much progress we still have to make. I think the other thing too is that there's more to the conversation than just, getting women together and rallying and supporting each other. We have to include men in this conversation too. Because to your point, like you said, Robert, there's so many men who can be allies for women in the workplace, in their relationships, in, just society. You need the power that men hold. Like we need them to step up and support us. And, when men know I'm making 3 times more than my female coworker who's doing the exact same job, we need men to be able to step up and use their power and go in and say, hey, this doesn't seem right to me. It's those sorts of situations. So it's really easy to ostracize men in these kind of pursuits. The more we do that, the worse off we are.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's not as much being anti-men in the workplace as it is just being pro-equality and pro-equal disbursement and equal opportunity. It doesn't have to be anti-anything.
Exactly.
It should just be the way it is.
Yeah, I hear from my male friends a lot. I've tried to have a lot of really honest conversations, especially, in the past couple years. I'll ask male friends of mine, hey, do you identify as feminist? And there's some guys who are like, yeah, I do. And I'm like, okay. And there's some men who go, no, I don't like that word. Why do you not like that word? And they go, well, feminists believe that women should have more power than men. And I'm like, no, let's back up here. The definition of feminism is the equality between men and women. It's similar to a lot of the other movements we hear. I don't mean to get political, but I feel like I have to. We hear a lot, all lives matter. We all agree all lives matter. We all get that. We just think that Black lives should also matter as much as a white life or as much as a Latina life or Latino life or, whatever that looks like. So when you say, okay, feminism is women wanting more power over men, that's just not true. Yeah, to your point, there's no hate that's happening here. There's no anti-gender or a group or something like that. It's just, I want everybody to get along. I want everybody to have equality. I want people to have equal opportunities. And especially my thing is, like you said, I wake up every day, how do I get women paid equally? How do I get women saving equally to men, investing equally? How do we get on an equal playing field so that we can take these opportunities that we've been given and really run with them and build something we're proud of?
And I'm glad you actually defined feminism for our listeners, because you're right. To a lot of male listeners, feminism would have a negative connotation. A lot of men will hear feminism and be like, oh man, that's anti-male. But you're right. It's definitely not. I mean, you have to understand that it's equality. There's a difference between being a feminist and then being anti-male or anti-men or thinking that you need to be better than men. Feminists are just trying to actually get rid of any gaps that are there and be equal.
Yeah. And we want men to be feminists. Please, let's all get on this train together. So like you said, it's not anti anything. It's not right. Anti-men in any way, shape, or form.
I just think it's been so exaggerated in the media and in movies and so forth that it's just gotten a negative connotation. And I'm very glad that you defined that for everybody. So, we're aware of it.
Yeah. And I think it really says a lot to toxic masculinity. Feminism for many men for a very long time was a threat to their masculinity. Men can't show emotion and men, need to always be powerful in every situation, and it's toxic. And I think when a lot of men, who say, okay, well, I'm not a feminist because I don't believe that women aren't better than men. That is a lot of toxic masculinity kind of taking over. And again, that's another society thing that's happened since birth, since you grow up about what it is to be a man, what it is to be a woman. And now, even that's changing because we have non-binary people and people who, are like, gender is a construct. So there's so many other things there too. The rejection of feminism, I think, says a lot about what we see as a man as well. Are you a man that supports women in your life, supports women in society, or do you feel threatened? Do you have a scarcity mindset as opposed to an abundant mindset? I could rant on this for about 6 more hours. So I will guide this ship back ashore.
Well, let's kind of veer off a little bit as to what you would suggest, or what are some of your ideas to narrow or eliminate those gaps, if you will.
I work at a financial tech startup called Tomorrow. I absolutely love what I do. I love the workplace. I love my job. When I was hired, I was the first woman hired. There was probably 10 or 11 men, so it was long overdue. And I think every man there knew it. I had one-on-ones with everybody on the team. And I had probably 3 or 4 of those men tell me personally, hey, I am here to support you. I'm here to make sure your ideas are heard. I'm here to give you opportunities. I'm here to advocate for you, and anything you need, just let me know. And that took 20 seconds. I cannot tell you how lovely that was. And it's also not, just saying it, but showing up and being that advocate and being that person. It's things like that. It's talking about your salary. It's advocating for coworkers who, maybe getting paid less than you, being an outspoken proponent for women's rights, both in your workplace, in your relationships, in society. It's giving women resources. If you see that, maybe you have a female friend who has no idea how to invest, but you do, take 20 minutes and walk her through how to open a Roth IRA and how to buy some VTI. And there's so many little opportunities for not only men, of course, but for women who, hopefully like myself, right, who have these resources to be able to lift women up, to educate women who may not have the same background or have gotten the same skills and tips and tricks that you did. It's really subtle, but it's just these little things that have, a snowball effect.
Yeah, I could see how that could definitely have a snowball effect. I mean, just the support itself has to be huge.
Yeah.
Knowing that you are that somebody's going to have your back and you're going to be treated just like everybody else at that workplace.
Yeah. And that was huge for me because it was something that worried me a little bit. I was a little worried walking into a company of all men. I was the first now. I think we have 4 women who work on our team and a lot of diversity in our team now. And yeah, it was a problem that they saw and they sought to remedy it. So they're like, yeah, we need a woman. We need women on our team. We need diversity. And so they didn't just say, okay, yeah, we need diversity and then not do anything about it. They went and, sought out somebody to fill that role who, was diverse. There's little things that you can do that really make a big impact.
Awesome. So if I can ask you just a quick question, what do you think in your career so far? And I know that you're still a young person. I'm going to call you a young person compared to me.
Yeah, I'm pretty young.
But what has been your biggest achievement or proudest moment in your career so far?
Oh, man. I took a job last year. I took a job for the money, quite honestly. I went in to interview for this job and I didn't trust my gut, but I ended up negotiating $20,000 more than they wanted to pay me and took the job even though my gut told me I wouldn't be happy. And long story short, it was terrible. It was a horribly unhealthy work environment. And I ended up needing to quit without another job lined up, which is like the biggest personal finance no-no. And I quit after 10 weeks there. And that decision to quit and the next decision I made to talk about that publicly was probably honestly the best thing that has happened to me in my career. The fact that I stuck to my guns, I quit a job that I didn't want to be in anymore, that wasn't healthy for me. I was crying myself to sleep. I was worried every second I was going to get fired. It was just horrible. Not only the fact that I quit that job, realized it wasn't right for me, I was like, no, I'm going to be vulnerable about it. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about the fact I failed and I took a job that went against everything that my gut was telling me. And I lived to tell the tale. And it's given me so much perspective. Like at the time it was happening, I thought it was the biggest deal ever. I was like, I'm going to get fired. It was horrible. And looking back, it was just like a blip in life's radar. Like it's just another thing that happens. And then rebuilding from that experience too. I had a boss who honestly just made me feel like I couldn't do anything. Not only that I failed, but that I was a failure. She made me, reanalyze every skill I had. And I'm a really confident person and she stripped all of that away. So I would say being able to remove myself from that unhealthy situation, talking about it publicly, talking publicly about my unemployment journey. I spent the first 3 months of this year unemployed, which was terrifying. Talking about that publicly, kind of rebuilding after this terrible boss. Honestly, that is what I'm most proud of in my career so far. In sharing the story, I've had people reach out to me who have similar stories. One woman quit her job, her really unhealthy job because of me, and then ended up finding one 2 days later that she loved. And that was something I could never have planned for.
Wow. It's amazing. I've never asked that question before and had so many down or dramatic moments turn into like their best moment. That's a great moment for you that you can rebuild from that and have that be one of your best moments, is that you overcame that. You're able to talk about it, be vulnerable, and you turned it into a positive. That's what we're all about here. I mean, we're a financial show, but I mean, we're all about being your best self too.
Yeah. And one of the things that was really hard was I'm seen as the person who has my shit together, right? In this kind of community of like, I'm a early 20-something person who's done everything right. And this was a moment I did not do everything right. And I felt like it was against my brand, against the person I had cultivated to, admit that this had happened. But I was like, no, this is such an incredible learning opportunity for me. I'm going to walk through this with people. I'm going to, showcase that this is what happened. This is what I'm learning from it. And here's how we're moving forward. It changed not only my business, it changed my life. Like truly, it changed how I thought about failure. It changed what I look for in a job. When I was interviewing with Tomorrow, they offered me the job and I actually said, I want to come back. I want to come back and interview one more time. And I want to make sure that this is the place where I'm supposed to be and that you guys feel this is the place I'm supposed to be, because I didn't want something to happen like that again. And so I went back and interviewed, and that ended up sealing the deal for me of going, okay, this is the place I want to be. It's forced me to make, even better decisions that are, more educated and in line with my priorities. So yeah, it was awesome. I was also nominated for a Plutus Award this year. So that was kind of cool too. But yeah, as far as something I'm probably really most proud of, it was that whole job experience and getting myself out of it.
Michael, what do you think? You're sitting over there soaking all this in.
So I think treating people equally means providing the same opportunity for everybody. And I think like on my blog, I think I've profiled a lot of amazing women people, but I profiled them because they're amazing people who are also women. I don't want my daughter to be a lady CEO of a company. I want her to be a CEO of a company that's a lady. I don't want her to be the lady president, right? I want her to be the president because she's kick ass and she can do that and become the president. I believe providing the opportunity means I'm not going to go and beat down your door. So, for example, I did this post on my blog. I said at least 10 times, I said, I'm doing this post. If you have information for this post, please give it to me and I'll include it in the post. Sure enough, I get hit back that women are underrepresented. Lady bloggers are underrepresented in the post. And, women who money, hit me with it. And I'm like, look, I put this information out there on multiple forums where everybody does. Treating people equally does not mean I go to and send an email to every single woman blogger I can find and say, please, pretty please send me content for this post.
I think that's not your issue. That's not an issue of you not being able to give representation. I think that's an issue even further back than that, which is, I would imagine the Rockstar Finance forums are 90% men, and because there's so many men talking about finance. So that's a problem that we need to address. Zoom out. This is forest from the trees. This is like, oh, right, women are not represented in this article in the way that places like Women Who Money think they should, because maybe we don't have as many women. I know we don't have as many women in this space in the first place. And I love the work that Amy and Vicky do. They're friends of mine. Women Who Money is incredible. So I understand their pushback there. If I'm being honest, I probably would have backed them as well. But as soon as I hear your side of it too, you're exactly right. You posted that on a forum.
It's funny that you mentioned that there's more men, because it almost feels to me like there's more women bloggers. That'd be interesting to know how many bloggers are men bloggers and how many bloggers are female bloggers.
That was what was so interesting too, because this was my first FinCon actually that I attended in September. I tend to run in the female personal finance community, the Bitches Get Riches, Tanya from Our Next Life, and Kara and Fairer Sense, and I could name 60 more women. Yeah. But the interesting thing at the Plutus Awards, actually, there is a best personal finance blog for women. Right? Best women's personal finance blog. And to your point about you want your daughter to be the president, you don't want your, or the CEO, you don't want your daughter to be the female CEO. I think there's still so much bias in that community because there's no best personal finance blog for men. I understand the intent behind it, right, is to get more women in front of people and to really, showcase the work that they're doing and to raise women up and to try to get rid of that gap. But it's an interesting dynamic, right? Where you give a category that's just for women. And it's like, when we had, Tanya won the best blog, regardless of whether you were a man or a woman this year, she won best blog. And so it's really tricky because we want, of course, women to have a seat at the table. And I think both of you would agree with that, obviously, but it's really interesting. Yeah. We want to give them a seat at the table. We just want it. Yeah. It doesn't have to be the woman's seat at the table. We just want a seat. So I think it gets really sticky really fast.
It does. It always becomes like the issue of, how do you elevate one? If one group's been held back historically, how do you elevate them without taking away from the others or negatively impacting the others? You never get it completely right. Unfortunately, sometimes life isn't fair and some people might have, for one reason or another, might have more privilege than others. It's just, do you use that privilege for good and to help others and bring others up with you? Or do you use that privilege, for not good?
And I think it's an abundance versus scarcity mindset. I think we hear this more and more with like women and minorities, right? Is that for so long, there was only one seat for the woman at the table. You'd climb the corporate ladder and then you'd push the ladder over because you're like, I don't want some other woman to come and jeopardize my seat. It's the abundance versus scarcity mindset. It's no longer that we have one seat for a Black person and one seat for a white woman or, whatever that looks like. We don't have that anymore. There's more than one seat for you. And I think the more we perpetuate the idea that there's only one slot, it just makes everything so much worse. And so if we can talk about, the abundance of look at all these opportunities and giving opportunities to every sort of person, provides more equality on all fronts. So yeah, the abundance versus scarcity is something that I've been thinking a lot about recently, of how do we shift from, okay, there's one seat at the table, let's have this brawl in order to get it, almost breed this competitive attitude, and rather let's offer as many seats at the table as there are. Let's give even more seats at the table. Let's pull seats in order to, make it more diverse, make it more of how we see the world and how the world is.
Do you think to some extent, not to diminish anything, but do you think, some extent too, that there's, I understand there's not maybe as many opportunities, or, there's an opportunity difference, but do you think also too that there's some opportunities there? Women need the confidence and everything to kind of speak up and take advantage of those opportunities?
I would say that not necessarily the confidence. I think they need the skills and the resources. And that's what I'm trying to do. Women have power. They need to know how to use it. I have so many female friends who come to me because now they know what I do. And they go, I know I'm being underpaid, but I don't know how to negotiate. I don't know what to say. I'm worried that I'm going to lose the job opportunity, but I hear that people are negotiating. I know I probably should. I just don't know how. And I hear that all the time. Or I'm going out to eat too much. I'm spending too much money on things I don't care about. How do I stop? How do I get better?
Let's use negotiating as an example, because that's a big one for you. So they must have this fear that, negotiating is going to be a problem. Do most of the people, after they, talked with you and you've helped them on the negotiating, they come back and that's been positive, right? I mean, it's not like, are they getting rebuffed from the employers, or are the employers saying, oh yeah, you're right, you do deserve, this raise, and we're going to work with you to give you it?
If you're a decent employer, if you're an employer that this woman actually wants to work for, the return is positive. I have never worked with a client that didn't get some sort of perk or benefit from negotiating. Somebody out there might hear this and have had a really bad experience, because I think, again, societally, right, women are told to be grateful for what you have, don't push back. And sometimes we do get penalized for negotiating and for pushing back, even if it's polite, even if it's, we have every sort of decorum. Sometimes that does happen. But I can speak to my own experience and my own clients is that, yeah, it works. I work with a lot of female entrepreneurs, especially bloggers. And this is like lifestyle bloggers or mom bloggers or fashion bloggers, whatever this looks like. There's so many women out there who are afraid, because we've been told to just be grateful, are afraid that they're going to lose a client for pushing back. They're afraid that they're going to lose an opportunity or lose a job. I actually was just talking to a friend. I talked to her a couple months ago, and we ended up chatting in like the terminal, like the bus terminal, for a half hour. And I was like, I have to get you to get this, because she's a videographer. She had a client, they signed a contract. She had a clause in there that basically there was a point in no return where she was going to do, a certain amount of work. And if the client decided to not move forward, the client still owed her money for her time and her effort. My friend had done 75% of the project, and the client came back and was like, I'm not interested in doing this anymore. My friend just let it drop. And she was telling me about it. And she's like, I don't want to make her upset. I don't want to burn any bridges. I don't want this to affect me negatively. And I looked at her and I go, you signed a contract? She signed a contract. You both agreed to this. You put time and effort and your value and your worth into this project. This other party knew what she was getting into. And there's a way to do this politely. You don't have to light a fire. You don't have to, blow things up. You can come back and say, hey, first off, I really enjoyed working with you. I'm bummed we couldn't make this work. Per our contract, with all this time and effort that I put into this project, here's the compensation that I expect per the contract we both signed. I'd be happy to give you the project, that's 75% finished at the end of the day in return for that. And we talked for probably a half hour, and she was so nervous about doing it. I told her, I go, being an entrepreneur, even, just being a woman who, is advocating for herself, you're going to have these sorts of situations time and time again. It's going to be uncomfortable, especially the first couple times you do it. But if you start now, it becomes more comfortable. It's a muscle. Negotiating is a muscle. I tell people that all the time. It's a muscle you strengthen and you get more comfortable doing. And I think what's so important is being okay with that, being okay with being uncomfortable for a little bit in order to move forward. And so I left that conversation with her, just trying to inspire her and trying to, make her feel valued. I was like, she's probably not going to reach out. I know she's really uncomfortable, but I did everything I could to try to get her money, the money she deserved, the money she was entitled to. And she actually messaged me. Yeah, she did. She messaged me back about a week later and she goes, hey, I reached out to my client. There was no conflict. I did exactly what you told me to, and I got my money. Thank you. I feel so much better. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, those are the kind of moments I live for.
Yeah, that's so great. You know, you provide that and you're able to handle that coaching for them.
Thank you. It's so important to me because so many of, the women entrepreneurs, the women I work with, they're like, I'm going to lose the job. I'm going to lose the client. I'm going to make them hate me. I hear that all the time. They're going to hate me. And I'm like, no. Again, as long as you don't go in there like looking for a fist fight, you're going in there polite, you're going in there professionally, you're just asking for what you know you're worth. That's all you're doing. Negotiations are collaborations, not conflicts.
I like that.
Both parties at the end of the day should leave feeling like they got at least part of what they wanted. Okay, you should be negotiating. How do you do it? There's resources out there and hopefully you're finding them. I'm providing them. There's other people out there who are providing them. It's just getting in front of women and, everybody can learn how to negotiate better. So it's having conversations about how to do it well, how to manage your money well. It's so important to not only acknowledge that people have power, but give them resources and tools and the skill set to learn how to use it.
That's awesome. Rob, did we lose you?
You did not lose me. I was just paying attention, and I love everything that was said.
I do.
That was an awesome conversation.
I do too. I want to hire you to coach my daughter.
I think my new mantra is negotiations are collaborations.
I like that.
You should walk away feeling like, okay, I got at least part of what I wanted, and the other person should feel that way too. If either of you walks away feeling like emotionally damaged or angry or pissed, that's not a negotiation. Like, you went in with a knife, you went in like ready to set fire to like that's like that's not a negotiation.
You went in hot.
Yeah. Not a negotiation. That's just I wanted to blow some up.
Can I ask real quick, do you have anything exciting coming up?
Yeah. So actually on the negotiating wavelength, I'm currently developing a course actually for women entrepreneurs about how to price themselves, how to negotiate, and that should be launching in early 2019. So look out for that. Now that I've said it publicly, I actually have to do it. But I'm partnering with my friend Natalia, who's a coach and a female entrepreneur who works with other female entrepreneurs. And so we're really excited about what we're developing. I have an event in Seattle. I don't know when this airs, but the event is December 12th, and it's called Conquer Your Cash, and it's with 4 other badass women in money. And we're going to talk about how to budget and save and negotiate and invest. And that's happening in Seattle, where I'm located. And then I'm also rebranding, and I'm very, very excited about that. So that's happening early 2019, probably in January. New site, same messaging, but new site, new logo, new brand name, all that fun stuff. Even more focused on women and money and careers. So yeah, there's a lot happening for me, but I'm really, really excited about it.
That is exciting to do. So it's going to be a different domain name and everything for you?
Yeah, different domain name, different everything. I haven't announced it publicly yet, but I'm getting really close. So right. Look out for that. But Victory Media, if you do go to Victory Media, it'll reroute you to my new domain if you happen to be listening to this in 2019.
Again, your website is Victory Media. It's spelled VICTORI media.com for anybody who wants to see what Tori's all about. We're going to have all of the links in the show notes, and we're going to have all of the links to your social media. So everybody can check you out. Everybody can see what you're all about. Michael, do you have a geeky question for Tori this week?
Okay, I got to ask you.
Okay.
Best female superhero, and you can't say Wonder Woman.
Oh, no, but this is Wonder Woman.
All the women always say Wonder Woman. So I want to hear, Wonder Woman's awesome. I want to give all the other women in the superhero universe some credit. So you got to give me somebody other than Wonder Woman.
Here's the deal. I don't know my superheroes very well, if I'm being honest. That's not where my geek lies. I am a Star Wars geek, very much so.
All right, we can do Star Wars. So Star Wars is good. Best female Star Wars character.
I mean, Padme Amidala is the obvious first choice, or Leia. They're both incredible. I really love Aayla Secura. Do you know who Aayla Secura is?
No.
Okay, so she was prequels, which everybody hates, but I actually am a big fan of the prequels. I can't believe I'm saying that publicly. But she was briefly in Revenge of the Sith, and she's more kind of known in the extended universe. I'm trying to remember what planet she's from. She's just a badass. She ends up getting killed in Order number 66 that happens, but she was helping save a planet at that time. She was helping evacuate the people on that planet, because the planet was under attack from war. And so she was helping evacuate a bunch of the civilians there. And she's just awesome. She's one of those people that, or I guess she's, an alien, one of the aliens and one of the Jedi that a lot of people don't know about. So she was really badass.
That's awesome. Definitely got some Star Wars geeky street cred there.
I could hear Michael frantically Googling Googling who that was.
You got me on that. Well, the names are all hard. I'm sure if I saw her, but the names are so hard sometimes.
She's blue, I believe. It's been a while. I used to be even nerdier. I used to know everything about Star Wars, but she has these almost kind of like horns that stretch that kind of rest on her shoulders. Do you remember the creepy guy from that was one of like Emperor Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith, like that flanked him?
Yes.
He had like a blue guy, and then he had a tall guy who had like a big tall hood. I at one point knew his name too, but she comes from the same like alien species that he does. So she has like these kind of horns that grow out of her head that rest on her shoulders. I'll send you a photo. It's a lot. It's hard to describe.
All right. Well, there's no questioning your geeky street cred. So you pass the geeky question. You pass.
Can I just say that you guys are really geeky?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was awesome to sit down and have a discussion with Tori about finances and careers when it deals with the millennial woman. There's so many levels to that discussion, and I'm sure we only scratched the surface. If you'd like to join the conversation, please head on over to twomoneyguys.com and let us know what's on your mind. As always, you can catch us on Facebook at Two Money Guys Podcast, Twitter at Two Money Guys, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Podbean, and really everywhere you can listen to podcasts.